Let's break down my toughest UFC fight week. So 5 days, 6 individual shows, 3 live arena events, 1 day of producing, all in Macau, which is a 7-hour difference from the UK, 10 days removed from the 8-hour difference in Las Vegas. It's time to flex. Sometimes we get caught up in the day-to-day grind and we miss the wins along the way and the little bits of motivation. Since my crazy week in Macau, I made 0 social posts about it, as I was literally digging the ground outside and wiring my house the very next day after getting over the plane. So this video was a note to myself, but honestly, I hope it gives some insight into what goes into a UFC fight week for this play-by-play commentator, and it might help wannabe broadcasters understand what it takes and also what's expected, because there are limited opportunities to make money as a freelance broadcaster. So every now and then you gotta haul ass, you gotta double, triple, quadruple dip. And as much as I'd love to know that I had a commentary gig on the first of every month, every month of the year, that would be great, but that's not the case. Not just for me, but for many people doing freelance broadcasting work. So here we go. Now, Macau was always going to be a big week as we were starting the very next season of Road to UFC, whilst also putting on a UFC Fight Night. That's 72 fighters that I needed to research. The first round for Road to UFC is a huge bulk of research. There are 46 fighters, with a high proportion being completely new to the UFC and the Road to UFC tournament. But what makes it even more challenging is that they're all from the Asian market, where there are language barriers, some pretty tough names, and also limited access to all forms of media. So it's hard to build that web of information around the athletes because they're from unknown gyms and don't share teammates and coaches that I would typically recognize. A big personal challenge was that the week before Macau, I was recovering from a UFC Fight Night in Las Vegas, so I was trying to get my body back on UK time whilst also preparing for the show elements for China. I've got to be almost scientific with my management of shifting the time zones, because I don't have days to burn sitting around waiting for my body to recover. I'm therefore really disciplined with sleep, nap schedules, plus I pay attention to good diet and exercise as well. So a week before a show is often spent doing a lot of research, recording voiceovers, getting ready for producing broadcast elements, and also the fighter meetings. I flew into Hong Kong on Sunday afternoon. It's about a 13-hour flight, plus you've got to transfer across the water over to Macau, and it's about 20 hours door to door, arriving at 2 p.m. on Monday. Tuesday, I was in fighter meetings from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. with no break. I did get some lunch, but there was no structured break for those. 90% of those interviews were through a translator, and it was a heavy lift. Wednesday, I was producing the UFC Fight Night broadcast interviews, which was a little bit more relaxed, but then we had a bunch of changes to the Road to UFC, which meant redoing a load of stuff for the upcoming shows. Thursday was the broadcast meeting for Road to UFC, followed by the first Road to UFC event, which was a 4-hour live broadcast. I then immediately went back to my room to write the scripts for the shows the following day. And on Friday, we had the Fight Night preview show on Paramount Plus, talking about the UFC Fight Night, not Road to UFC, the Fight Night, so a whole new bunch of fighters. That was a 30 to 45 minute live broadcast, followed by day 2 of Road to UFC, another 4-hour live event. Again, it was back to the hotel room, write the scripts for the UFC Fight Night pre-show and get ready for the live Fight Night. It's the big day, Saturday. We had the live pre-show, Paramount Plus again, before getting into the UFC Fight Night live event, where we were called upon for the prelims, which I've got to say is a bit of a buzz. It's not written into the schedule, the format that we will definitely be needed on the desk, but if fights in before time, we sometimes get called upon, and it's like a very specific time that we have to fill to get us off air. After that, we waited until all of the live fights were over, and then we had the post-show, which I hosted. I had a really great sense of pride being part of all of these shows and events. I was largely pleased with my contributions. I feel like I held it together pretty well, even when stuff outside of my control was causing me a few challenges. And it is amazing what you can achieve when you have to. The beauty of live TV is that you just go. There's no choice. Lights are on, cameras are rolling, the people are watching. It's your job to entertain, and it is really a great privilege. I actually took part in a movie recently and you've got to redo a lot of the same elements many times over, and that's really hard to stay concentrated, and it's very different from the live event schedule. Got to also talk about being part of Road to UFC. I've commentated every season now. We're on season 5. I think it's a pretty difficult event compared to fight nights and contender series, but it's great to be part of a broadcast that captures moments from early in a UFC fighter's career, and I'm looking forward to the semi-finals in August. That's the end of my look at just how great I am spiel. Hopefully there's some insight in there that's useful to someone. Thank you for watching if you made it to the end.